and Airbus Heritage. Static display courtesy of Martin Baker Aircraft, which was Britain's first operational jet fighter. That didn't take to the air until March 1943. Such was the lead that Germany had obtained in, for its first pass, the remarkable shape of the Me-262. Of thrust each. And in April 1944, this incredible pioneering machine was able to enter Luftwaffe service with a unit called Erprobungskommando 262 as test and service trials unit stationed at Lechfeld in Bavaria. That August, it was renamed famously the Kommando Nowotny after its commanding officer, and it conducted the first ever missions in history by a jet fighter, scoring several air-to-air kills. Much has been made over the years of Hitler's edict that the Me-262 should be used not as an air-to-air fighter, but as a bomber. So it was that another Luftwaffe unit, Kampfgeschwader 54, converted to become the first ground attack unit on the type. It proved fairly ineffective in that role, and it really didn't do a great deal for the overall operational effectiveness of the 262. Large-scale fighter missions by these aircraft against Allied bombers started in early 1945. Their speed was far in excess of the piston-engine fighter opposition they were coming up with. The top speed of the Me-262 was about 560 miles an hour. Compare that with the P-51D Mustang at 440 miles an hour. And a very good description of just what it was like for an Allied fighter pilot to come up against a Me-262 in combat for the first time was provided a few years ago by a P-51 pilot veteran of the American 55th Fighter Group, Richard G. Gibbs.
I remember one time I was coming back from a bombing mission in the vicinity of Germany, all by myself for whatever reason. And I was about 30,000 feet, and I looked down there and I saw a 262 at about 20,000 feet going the other direction. So I thought, boy, this is a chance to get that jet. I did a half roll and what they call a split S, which is a inverted dive. I'm exceeding the red line of the airplane, trying to catch that jet. He just pulls up the vertical climb and disappears. I had no way out there to catch it.
Still, there were insufficient Me-262s to make a material difference to the Luftwaffe's efforts. As the late naval test pilot, Captain Eric Winkle-Brown, pointed out, the 262 was no dogfighter, but it was an effective bomber-destroyer. Its radius of turn was never that great, but it could outrun all Allied fighters until the advent of the Gloster Meteor, and even then there were no jet-to-jet combats during the Second World War. The 262 in any case was faster than the Gloster jet. A report by the Royal Aircraft Establishment, which evaluated captured 262s after the war, So this was down to the higher profile drag of the Meteor. Such, indeed, was the difference between their designs that it was estimated that had the Meteor 3 been fitted with engines of the same thrust as the Me-262, it would still have been 20 miles an hour slower than the Messerschmitt. Against that, the Meteor's takeoff run was shorter and the aircraft more manoeuvrable. Total production of the Me-262 had reached about 1,400 by the end of the war, all produced under license in Czechoslovakia post-war. None had survived in flying condition. This is part of a replica project undertaken in the United States, which began in the 1990s using an original two-seat Me-262 supplied by the US Navy as a pattern aircraft. The first of them took to the air in December 2002. This is the second of the 5 built. It was delivered to the Messerschmitt Foundation at Manching in Germany in the spring of 2006, and it's the only one of these aircraft to have been operated in Europe. And who, Mark, would ever have thought we'd see this shape in British skies?
Most stunning silhouette that we've got here this weekend. I remember building a model of one of these many years ago as a kid, and never thought I'd see one flying here at Royal International Air Tattoo.
When it arrived in the UK last week, it was the first time a Me-262 had flown in Britain, by my reckoning, since the 29th of November 1945, when a captured original example made the last recorded flight of a series of performance and handling trials carried out by the Royal Aircraft Establishment at Farnborough. That aircraft is now at the RAF Museum London in Hendon. And how lucky we are that Airbus Heritage, the Messerschmitt Foundation and the Flugmuseum Messerschmitt at Manching should have acquired and been operating this aircraft for now 17 years. Finally, it's come to the UK, and it has got disappointed. The aeroplane in the hands of Airbus test pilot Gary Kleyenbühl, a man of vast flying experience. He's been in the flight test business for more than 30 years, has frontline types such as the F-5E Tiger, the F-A-18 Hornet, the Tornado and the Eurofighter Typhoon in his logbooks, but surely he's proudest of his exploits flying this, the Messerschmitt Me-262 AB-1C. A few days longer, I believe it's going to be spending a short amount of time on display. Battle of Britain Memorial cloud of smoke following it. The US Air Force Boeing B-52H Stratofortress. frontline US Air Force service today with Air Force Global Strike Command more than 70 years later, and coming up to 70 years since it entered service with the then Strategic Air Command in 1955. More of that later. We're going to see it doing a couple of flypasts and indeed closing the show, we expect, with its final break into the circuit. How many other shows would you see a B-262 followed by a B-52 takeoff? Now I believe we're returning to the Sky Tanker theme at the very latter stages of the NATO accession process. So we welcome Sweden to NATO with this flight past of Voyager and Gripen. Arrived on the 3rd of July and departs from RAF Fairford on the 21st of July. 752 in all, the biggest RAF air-to-air activity this year.
That's the B-52.
Conducting a variety of roles on show day, they meet and greet the crowd, they man the immersive tech stand, answering questions, activities around the RAF experience, and showcasing technologies that the RAF cadets use in their training syllabus. So what is the RAFAC? They are a voluntary military... There's the A400M into the air, and now we've got... demonstrating its abilities as an aerial refueling tanker as part of the Luftwaffe slot, which is coming up a little later. But now a number of the aeroplanes we saw earlier in a fly past taxis out now to display solo. Demonstration. So teardrop to the northwest, followed by a reversal for a fast fly past aircraft, continuing to maintain 450 knots as it flies from left to right. Spain was the first export customer for the Harrier after the US Marine Corps. They bought the AV-8A model, called it the AV-8S for Spain, and gave it the name Matador. Delivered from 1976 onwards, flying Spanish Navy carriers. The EAV-8B model, equivalent to the AV-8B of the US Marine Corps, the Harrier II variant, arrived in the late 1980s, and this B Plus with a night and all-weather attack capability from 1996. And since 2013, they've flown from the loading helicopter dogship Juan Carlos I. entry into the teardrop maneuver, repositioning from the left, this time towards the bow centre, maintaining 350 knots. Other aircraft completed 360-degree turn. Now I'll let you into a little secret. Most of these 360 turns will look level. Sitting up and descending, decelerating down to 90 knots.